Hey y'all, welcome to the Let's Be Real podcast with Taylor Jones. I'm so excited today to have my baby little brother chicken. Colton is on this podcast today. I'm so excited. He's my little brother, and he's just inspires me so much, and I just love listening to everything he has to say. He's so wise beyond his years, so I think you're gonna get a lot out of this. So that's your intro.
Well, I'm excited to be here. You texted me about it a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't want to pass up the opportunity. I was honestly really excited to.
Yeah, and he actually made me feel super, because I was pretty what's going on? And I don't know, I was kind of nervous to do the podcast. So I'm really excited that Colton made me feel so chill about it. He was like, no, this is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. And that's his personality, is he's just chill, laid back, and relaxed. So, okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to ask you, what is something that has impacted your life that could impact someone else's? Literally anything that's happened in your life, a book you read, anything.
So if I was going to, explain one thing that happened to me in my life that probably changed everything. My whole life, I was kind of set on the idea that I was going to play college football, make it to the NFL,
his whole life,
my whole
literally
life.
His whole life.
And ever since I was little, I used to have football whenever I was little, and you probably remember the picture that Mom always talks about. I would not take a picture unless I was holding that football, and it just brought me so much comfort, honestly. But as I got older, I realized, I feel like I'm good at this, I take a lot of interest into it, and I want to be good at it.
Yeah.
And so obviously I worked at it, and I worked out, and
he's worked at it his whole life. His whole life.
I used to, you can back me up on this. I used to, do my push-ups, and I thought it was so cool. And then I'd go to there's a video on Facebook. I don't want anybody to look it up, please. But it's of me doing a workout video.
If you do that video, you'll look like him. Yeah, that's how he ends the video.
I said at the end, I started flexing at the camera, and I said, if you do my workout, which was 5 push-ups, 5 sit-ups, it wasn't a lot, then you'll look like me, which I wasn't big at all, but I thought it was cool. I kind of sidetracked, but so
good backstory.
Yeah, good backstory. I had to add a little bit in there, and so as I got older, I really took a serious interest into football. Really just sports in general. I still love any kind of activity that I can do outside. And so as I got older, obviously my next goal was to make it to junior high, be a starter in junior high, and then get to high school, obviously. And I wanted to be, I always used to look up to the varsity football players. I was like, I want to be, I want to be like them. I want to be
get there.
Exactly. I want to be a varsity football player. And so freshman year came in football, started out on JV. But I kept working, and I made it up to varsity, and I was so excited. I scored my first touchdown my freshman year, and I was so excited. And then
we were his biggest fans. Me, Mom, Cass, everyone in the fam, all the women in the fam. We were his biggest fans, y'all.
Y'all were definitely
he's a superstar for sure.
And so that happened. Freshman year happened. I was so excited for sophomore year. I knew that I was going to get better, and so I worked at it that summer. And then the second game of the season, me and my teammate were going for the same tackle, and he grabbed him, and his momentum just threw his whole body into my leg, and it indented my knee towards my other leg, and so I heard a pop, and I felt it, and I'm not gonna throw any shade at anybody, but a guy said that he was injured on the play, and he was going crazy on the ground, and they took him out on a stretcher. And he had a sprained ankle, and they put me out on the bench by the cheerleaders. I wasn't gonna act like I was in pain because I was by the cheerleaders, but
you gotta act cool in front of the cheerleaders.
Gotta act cool, but I was in a lot of pain at that moment, so I was sitting there, trying to act cool or whatever, which isn't important to me anymore. That's one thing that I'll explain. And so I was trying to act cool, and then they take me out, and as soon I don't cry a lot, but as soon as they put me in the room, I started crying. Not even because of the pain, because the pain was bearable, whenever I was by the cheerleaders. Obviously, if it was in too much pain, I would have cried regardless. But they take me out, and I wasn't crying necessarily because of the pain, but I was just broken that I wasn't going to get to finish my season. I knew as soon, before they tested me, I knew I couldn't move my leg, the bottom half of my leg, and I knew. at that moment that like my season was over. And you know, I'm a really optimistic person. I like to be positive, but you know, I was looking, you
But
know,
that's hard for anyone.
yeah, like I was looking at it, you know, from a logistical standpoint. Like I knew.
And he does that. He's very statistical, logical, realistic. That's just how he is. It's just, yeah. So he like overthinks things a lot. So
I know like random statistic. I know stupid stuff. I don't know. I do my research on not on the important things, but on I know random facts. If you need me, I'm an
he does
encyclopedia.
know random facts.
But so that happened, and I was broken. You know, I don't think at any point in my life, the night that happened, I don't think I've ever been further from God. And um, looking back at it, that makes me sad that I was ever at that point.
Yeah.
Where I didn't resent God, like, you know, normally people say, you know, they resent God after things like that. I didn't resent God. I didn't.
You were just far from him.
I was just far from him, and my positivity was at an all-time low, and my motivation was not. It wasn't gone, but I wasn't like, you know, the day before that. If you would have come up to me and asked me if I was ready to play that football game, I would have told you 10 out of 10 times yes, like 10 times over. I would have told you I was so excited. You know, one of my former coaches was actually coaching the other team, so I was going to go prove him. You know, he shouldn't have left.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Shout out to Coach Barrett. You know, I got injured and it happened, and my positivity was at an all-time low in my life. And I realized not too long after, honestly, I want to say it was about a week or two, I watched a video on YouTube, actually, and I haven't really talked to anybody about it. I mean, it's not like a, you know, a major point, but since we're getting into it, I feel like I need to explain it. I was watching a YouTube video, and it was kind of explaining Frank Gore, his career, and how he tore his knee up 3 times in college. And he's he has one of the longest longevities of any like running back in the NFL I've ever seen. Like he's been in there, I think, I'm not going to throw it out. I know it's 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And normally, like, you know, the age that he's at, normally running backs would stop playing. And he's tore up his knee 3 times in college, and he's still here. And so that really gave me motivation. You know, I was thinking, you know, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, like if he tore up his knee and he's good,
exactly.
Mine's good. I can come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I got surgery about 2 weeks later.
And he tore you didn't even say, you tore your ACL?
ACL.
Well, actually, I can't remember everything.
ACL, MCL, and it was the inner part. So lateral meniscus. I partially tore the lateral meniscus.
So it was like a major injury, for sure.
It was a major injury. It was a season ender. They told me that it was probably going to be around somewhere between 8 to 11 months recovery, if they're being generous. And I realized after, like, you know, the injury happened, and the 2 weeks leading up to the surgery, I was just negative. And the day after the surgery, I don't think I've ever been more of a motivated, positive person in my life. Because I saw the video the day before surgery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that really got you going.
Yeah, like it, you know, I was thinking, like, it didn't really hit me then.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
I haven't really talked to people about it. I don't know, I don't really feel the need to, but since we're going into it. And so the next day, I don't think I've ever been more motivated and positive in my life. As much pain as I was in, because the day after surgery, it's not a good feeling. Like physical pain, that was definitely worse than whenever the injury even happened.
And realizing the recovery, like of what you couldn't do for a certain amount of time, because you couldn't.
I couldn't walk for a month and a half.
Yeah.
So.
Like on the couch for a month, like that's crazy.
But I was really scared, you know, because like I was positive and I was motivated and I was so excited to get back on the field and play football. But I realized, you know, like, well, this isn't a one-day process. Like, it's not just because I'm motivated. That doesn't mean that I'm going to, you know, experience, you know, God healed my knee immediately, because that's not what he's going to do. God gives you trials and tribulations, you know, you need to go through.
Yeah.
And so I realized that. And so I went through it, and I don't think I was ever more excited to walk in my life. The day that the therapist told me, you know, he gave me the note and he said, "You can walk now." Obviously I cheated a couple times, and I walked a couple times before that. Not very far, but like, you know, I was like, you know. And so whenever he told me that, I was so excited that I could walk anywhere. I could drive at that point, because on my 16th birthday, I spent all day in a CDM machine, which is, I don't know if y'all know exactly what a CDM machine is. You put your knee in it and it bends it up, and then it straightens it out, and then it bends it up, and it does that.
And you're sitting there and you're like, I don't want to do this machine. I want to get my license.
Exactly. I
gosh.
was so motivated to get back on the field and do what I loved. But I was sitting here in a CDM machine on my 16th birthday doing, I felt like I was doing nothing. I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
I wanted to go out and go for a run and, change my life for the better, but I couldn't, obviously. And I realized that. And so the day that I could walk, I was so excited, got my driver's license a couple of days after that. And then I got to actually run, the track season of last year. They were telling me I probably wasn't going to.
But your recovery was faster than they thought.
Yeah,
right?
my recovery was, they let me start running track. Let's see. It was only 4 or 5 months ish that they let me start running straightaways, which they normally told me that was around probably 6 to 7 month mark.
Yeah.
And so, I was so excited, obviously, that I was going to get to do something and compete, do what I love. And so, they released me for track to do straightaways, and I was so excited. And the very first track meet, I got first or whatever. And obviously, I wasn't even focused on getting first.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even focused on getting first. What I was more focused on was just showing myself that I could run.
Yes, just doing it.
Exactly. And whenever I got first, obviously that was a confidence booster, but I knew that my work wasn't done even if I didn't get first.
That's a good mindset.
Yeah. And so that happened, and we only had 2 track meets, and then coronavirus hit. And I was so mad because I was going to get to do high jump, and I love high jump. That's my favorite event in track.
Yep, another thing.
Exactly.
Another trial.
Another thing. And so I was going to get to do high jump for district. They didn't release me for the first track meet, but I was going to get to do it for district. And the coronavirus hit. And so obviously I didn't get to. But I was still motivated. I was still excited. I was still trying to stay positive as best I could.
Yes.
And so I finished therapy not too long after that. And then I'll just fast forward to this season. Well, not quite to this season. I'll start midsummer. So middle of this summer, I was at home, obviously, with the corona stuff. Had to stay home and self-quarantine. I started lifting and running a lot at home. You know this. You saw me a couple times lifting and running.
It was like twice a day. He had so much motivation to come back from this. Like, it was literally crazy.
So I was just so excited to get back. And then as soon as the football season hit, I was so motivated. I was so excited. My knee felt better than it did before. I felt more healthy, more excited, more energized. I was more positive than I'd ever been in my life at any point. And so, I was obviously, with all that being said, I was so excited for this season. And so we start practicing, still feel great, still feel good. My knee feels great. Everything's going great. And I want to say, as I started healing, I feel like I started separating from God again. And I realize that now. I didn't realize it, before the injury.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt myself kind of, not leaving God, but not being with Him.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
that's good. Yeah.
And so the injury happened at practice. It was our first team scrimmage. I was running around the left side, got tackled one time. I was completely fine. 4 guys actually jumped on my leg, which made me feel really good about it, because as soon as they did, I get up and I felt completely fine. I was like, okay, this is great. I'm back to how I was, because 4 guys jumping on you, you'd think that that's what would do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the next play, I was running around the right side, and I juked a teammate, and then the teammate, jumped out to get me, and their arms hooked around the bottom half of my leg, and then their helmet hit about my butt area, so it pushed the knee in opposite directions.
Yeah.
And I felt it pop, and it's a feeling like, I talked to one of my friends about this, who also had knee surgery at one point in his life. As soon as it happens, what it is, if it's on the same leg, what it is. Mm-hmm. And it feels the exact same. It's you get hit with the nostalgia bomb. It's almost
and
like
you were crying on the field, like, God, not again.
I was upset,
again.
And I look back at myself and I'm ashamed that I even said, why me? Because mm-hmm. I was sitting on the gator as they took me out, and I was punching it. I was so upset. I was so mad. And I was saying, why me? I was saying, why me? I repeatedly said it so many times. And as soon as, we went to the doctor and they tested my knee and they said that you most likely retore everything. At that moment, I was thinking, why am I saying why me? You know, I don't want to be at the place that I was last year where I was negative, wasn't listening to God.
Falling in a hole.
I was falling in a hole, and I realized that, and I couldn't do that again. And I thought, you know, it's really selfish to say why me, because there's a person that would trade their reality for mine.
That's a hard mentality to have.
Yeah,
that's so good though.
There's people that are in worse positions than I am right now, and they would trade their situation for mine in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And I realize that now, and I don't want to take for granted the life that I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to sit here and ask God why me, and instead of blessing God for giving the life that he has to me.
Exactly. Wow. You're 16 and he's saying this, y'all. That's literally like, wow.
And so I kind of came to that conclusion that I can't be resenting God like that. And so for the past couple of days, I've actually started thinking about doing this. I've read the Bible. I've started on the New Testament, and I've read 5 chapters a day since the injury day, actually. And I was actually thinking about posting, like, if I found a good verse on Instagram, I'll probably start doing that, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not every verse, obviously, but like if I find a good
not every single verse, but if you have something that touches you,
if I have something
could touch someone else. So.
Exactly. And so I think I'm going to start doing that. But I started reading the Bible, and not like subconsciously, like where like people will be walking around the school with their Bible, but they're not living the reality that they say they are. You know, you can't be doing that. You can't be a hypocritical Christian. If you're going to be a Christian, you have to admit your mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not saying that I'm a perfect Christian. And I'm saying that I'm reading the Bible just to look like the perfect Christian. Mm-hmm. I'm reading the Bible because I need to better myself.
Yes.
Especially with the situation that I'm in. I don't want to fall in a hole again. Yes. And so that's why that's why I am reading the Bible. I'm not doing it just to say that I'm reading the Bible, obviously. But ever since then, I feel like I've had the same mindset that I had the day after watching that video, the day after surgery last year. Like every day. Last year, it kind of stuck for a day, maybe 2 or 3 days. But right now, boom. But right now, I feel like I've had this mentality for the 2 weeks that I have surgery tomorrow. Obviously, whenever you post this, I would have already had surgery. But for the 2 weeks leading up to even today, I am so happy for the life that God's given me. Mm-hmm. And recently, within the past couple of weeks or months, like God has surrounded me with people that help me. Yeah. And I didn't even realize it before the injury, but these are the kinds of people that are going to help my relationship with God. They're going to keep me positive.
He did all of this for a reason.
Exactly. He did all of this for a reason, and I know that now. And the people that he surrounded me with, I've never been happier with myself in my life. And,
I love that.
So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I think I got the whole story out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's just literally so good. That I loved how you said that you were kind of far from God, and then the injury happened, and then you said, then when that injury, first time it happened, you started getting closer to him. You were kind of negative, but you kind of felt closer to him. Then when you got better, then you started falling away again. Then the injury happened again, and you were like, oh my gosh, like then you realized he is breaking me so he can heal me. And exactly. I'm not finding my healing in earthly things. I'm finding my healing in him, because you can't fill your cup with anything but God. Like when he breaks people so he can fix them. And so I think that's so good, that message that you're getting. And that's just so crazy. Like, that's just so crazy to me that this even happened. Like, he's literally played football his whole life. He is so good at it too. He excels in football, and a lot of people look up to him. Like, you didn't mention this, but he's the guy that prays for the team, with the team. He leads a lot of guys to God. He is a leader. That's what he does. And so I think that was kind of something he had, was he wants to lead people to Christ through football. And God was like, wait, maybe you were idling football more than him. You know what I mean? Then that's easy to fall into things that you're passionate about, to have a passion for that over the passion that you have for God. And so I think that's just so amazing that, like, even after all of that, you've had such a positive mindset at 16 years old to go through something like that, a full year recovery twice, and to be like, you know what, I'm not saying why me, I'm saying this was for me, this was meant for me, God has a plan for me. And I was actually watching, someone got me into watching YouTube channels, and I was watching a YouTube channel, which I was like, I don't even know what this means. What's a YouTube channel? But it's so good. I actually love it. Anyways, but they said in the YouTube channel, they were going through a hard time, and they had mentioned Romans 5, which it says, we should glory in our sufferings because sufferings bring about perseverance, and perseverance brings character, and character brings hope, and that doesn't put you to shame. Your suffering does not put you to shame. It is something that helps you grow as a person. And so that, and like persevering means to overcome something and grow from something, and like that's literally what you have done. Like it's so crazy to see in your life how at 16 years old you've become such a leader in Christ, and you don't let two sufferings define your future. You let them grow your future, and that's just such an amazing thing. Like I think that's just so cool that at 16 years old you're so wise already, and I feel like that's going to touch so many people. Like, don't let your suffering define you. Let it grow you. And that's exactly what you do. I think you use that to help you in your relationship with God. And I think you realize how close your relationship is with God when bad things happen. Because it's so easy when you're like, you see a miracle happen, or you see a blessing happen, or positive things are happening in your life, and you're like, oh, that's God. Like, yeah, I mean, it is God. But yeah, it's easy to see that. But when bad things happen in your life, and things put you down, and like just you're suffering through something, I feel like a lot of people forget to give glory to him still. Like they only give glory to him when good things are happening to them, not when bad things are happening to them. And I think that's so good that you recognize, like, I need to give glory to him even through this, not why me, but this was for me. This was the future he had for me. And you're saying you have so many amazing friends surrounding you. And I think that was a timing thing with God too. He was like, okay, so this is going to happen. I'm preparing you with your friends. I'm preparing you for such a great future, to be a leader in God. And I just think that's so good. And like speaking of being a leader, he is such a good leader in Christ, y'all. Like it's just so crazy at 16 to see how much he leads others to Christ. And I think that's so rare at his age, because so many people feel so immature in their faith, and they're scared to speak out. And after he had gotten hurt, all of the coaches and the kids all got down and kneeled for him and prayed. They were all praying healing over him. They were like, we don't want to lose our teammate. We don't want him to go through this again. That's so hard on mentally. And I think it was so powerful that even after the coaches stopped praying, the kids stayed kneeling and stayed praying for him. And that just reminds me of when I got the honor to be at his church camp this year. I was a leader at his church camp, and it was just so cool to see him be a leader for other junior high guys. He was obviously, you're in high school. He's a junior this year, and he was mentoring junior high guys. And I remember the last night at church camp, Colton, they were playing the song "The Blessing," and something in Colton's heart just led him to the altar, and he just needed to go down and just kneel to God and give whatever he needed in his heart out. All of the guys that Colton was mentoring came up and put their hands on him, and they were like, you've led me to God. Like I got you. They don't even have to know what he's going through. They're just like, I got you. And I think that's so cool to see how you've led them to do that. And that just shows how awesome that is. And like, I know it was really hard on you mentally to go through all that. I mean, obviously 2 years of trying to recover after you've literally been an athlete your entire life. How did that affect you mentally? Like, did you just put a mask on to disguise how you were feeling? Like, how did that affect you?
I would say that, the 2 weeks leading up to the surgery, the first time, I kind of did, like obviously I wasn't portraying to anybody. At that point in time, I didn't start reading the Bible. Mm-hmm. If I'm being completely honest, I hadn't really read much of the Bible at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And so the 2 weeks leading up to the surgery, before I watched the video, before I kind of started realizing what I needed to do, and I need to be positive, and that it wasn't a healthy mindset for me to be in. I would say that I showed up to school for those first 2 weeks just kind of trying to get by.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't super happy. I'd get home and I wasn't super happy. And anytime mom or dad asked, I always told them I was fine.
Yeah.
But obviously, I wasn't in a great place.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time, I can say now that I'm like happier than I've ever been. You know,
And that's so good.
even before the injury. So.
Yeah, and that's so good. I remember like when he first got hurt, I was just so worried about him all the time. I was just like, I hope he's not just putting a mask on, because like mental health is so important, and I think this helps you realize how important God is for mental health too. And so I just encourage y'all, if y'all are going through anything mentally, like reach out. Don't put a mask on. Like Colton overcame that and he realized that God is the answer. But sometimes people need a boost. And so if y'all need someone to talk to, please reach out and get that help, because I mean, mental health is just so important. So that's so good. So also, like I said, he's such a leader. And what do you think made you become such a leader? Like what made you the leader you are today?
I believe that,
because you've always been a leader your whole life.
I'm like, I'll never self-appoint myself a leader, but whenever I think of, you know, a leader, I think that you have to first look at, you know, you have to examine yourself, you know, like before you get into a relationship, you can't expect to love that person unless you can trust in yourself first too. You can't be committed to somebody unless you're in that position. You can't be a good leader unless you learn from other people. Once again, that's my alarm.
Your poor phone.
My poor phone. But I feel like to be a leader, you have to watch other people do it too. Either whether it's a bad leader, you know, like you can learn a lot from a person doing something wrong. You know, if a person is doing it completely wrong, you know, like they're being a leader and they're telling people what to do, but they're not doing it too, or they're telling you one thing and then they're doing something else.
Yep. Yeah.
You realize, well, if I was in his position, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and so by the time that it comes your turn to lead anybody, you know, everybody at one point in their life will be a leader.
Yeah.
Everybody will.
That's so good.
Whether it's to one person or multiple people, and you have to look back at what people either did wrong or what they did right, and you have to, you know, make a self-examination and change yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. Like if you're going to lead, make sure you know what image you're putting out there. Like, and also don't put too much pressure on yourself, because no one is perfect and you are going to make mistakes. But the thing about that is admitting that, repenting from that, which means to just turn away from that sin, and to acknowledge that as a leader. Like, I think it's important to know you're not ever going to be a perfect leader, but if you are going to lead, just try to be mindful of yourself, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like you need to have that good balance to be a strong leader, I think, for sure. And like, because I think you're so good at leading with your faith. And so what do you say to people? Because I remember when I was a leader there, like at your church camp, a lot of the girls were saying that they were just scared to talk about their faith because they felt like they were too young. And like, what do you have to say to people that feel like they're too young and maybe their voice isn't going to be heard, or maybe they don't know exactly what to say because they just feel immature in their faith? What do you say to them?
I mean, everyone's immature in their faith at one point. You know, you can't become mature. Like whenever you're a kid, you'll start out, you know, being a toddler, being a child. You'll be, you know, really young, not know what you're doing.
Good developmental.
Yeah, you'll cry about everything, right? You'll cry about everything. You'll complain about everything. Everything will either be very good or very bad. There's no in between. And then you'll grow up and you'll be a teenager. You're still stupid, but I'm still stupid. But you'll grow up and you'll mature a little bit. You know, like you'll start treating people with more respect. You won't complain about everything. But you'll still complain sometimes. Everyone complains whenever they're a teenager about something. It's too hot outside or whatever it may be. And then you become an adult. You know, I still don't think some adults are mature. But,
age doesn't define maturity.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. I was just, you know, using the age analogy as a thing because, like, you know, inherently you get much more mature as you age. But some people still, I feel like people hold on, you know. And whenever you're a kid, your voice is always heard, regardless of whether you think it is or not. You know,
that's good.
You may think that just because you're 13 and your parents are 31, that you can't that you can't get your point across to them because they won't listen. You know, because they will. You know, like whether they respond to it the way that you think they will, no one's going to respond in a perfect way. You know, a person can give you the best advice in the world and it still won't be the best advice. God is the only one that can give you the best advice.
Yep.
You know,
You have to know who to turn to.
exactly. Like God's either going to speak through this person, or they're going to, you know, let you know that this person is not giving you the right advice.
Yeah.
One way or another. And regardless of your age, you need to speak up about your faith. You need to speak up about your mental health. And
Like have a voice.
exactly. Like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, and
Ooh, that's a deep athlete analogy right there.
athlete analogy. And if you don't say something, no one will hear you.
Exactly.
And so there's no point in not saying anything.
Yes, and that's so important. Like, I feel like a lot of, especially young people, feel like they can't talk about their faith because, one, they feel like they may be too immature in their faith. Well, age does not define maturity. And it literally says in the Bible, in 1 Timothy, it says, don't let others look down upon you because of your age. Just because they're older than you does not mean, that does not define how you can touch someone's life. And another thing with being scared to talk about your faith, you're going to continue to be scared unless you voice your faith. And the more you practice voicing your faith, it's never going to be perfect. Don't expect you're talking about God to ever be perfect, because it's not. But it's something that will start that fire to where you know how to start talking about it. So I just say, you need to start voicing it, no matter how big or small. It's going to impact someone's life, and don't let your age define how much you can impact someone, because I mean, like I said, Colton inspires me so much, and he's 16 years old. He's way younger. I say, and I'm not really. He's like 4 or 5 years younger than me. It's not a big difference, but and I look up to him so much, and I don't ever want him to I don't want anyone to ever feel down talking to someone about their faith, because like there's no point in feeling down. Like, you can do so much with your voice. You have a voice, and use it to lift his name and start doing that, you know? I think that's so good.
And I bet it feels pretty good right now. Your seat's a solid 6 inches higher than mine is. So I mean, I'm
looking down on you.
I'm looking up to you right now. But there's a verse in the Bible that actually says God wants us to approach him as a child.
Yes.
You know, and I
have a childlike faith.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you know, I look at that, and I actually wrote a little sermon about it in my notes that I was going to teach, because we were going to start teaching on Wednesday nights at the church before the coronavirus thing hit. And I was actually going to preach a sermon about approaching God like a child. And so I still have that in my notes, but I never got to say the sermon.
That's
just 'cause
so good.
the coronavirus, but yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. No, I actually have one more question. How was it growing up with 2 sisters?
I want to say it was good.
You want to say it was good?
I want to say it was good.
Colton's got 2 older sisters, me and Cass, so.
It was good. It was bearable.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, me and Cassie give him poop all the time, so I was just going to see if he's enjoying his life with All right, well, we're going to end it there. I'm just so grateful Colton could be on this podcast. I think his message is going to touch so many people. Like, don't just look to God in times where you can see miracles happening. Look to God when bad things are happening too. Don't turn away from God in hard times. Turn to him, and like glory in your sufferings. Don't waste your life in a suffering. Grow in that suffering, because suffering, like I said, brings perseverance. Perseverance brings character, and character brings hope. There's no shame in suffering. Don't miss out on things God's doing in your life just because of something bad that happens. So I just think that's so good. I encourage all of y'all to give your glory to God every single day, because just like Colton said, it changed his life when he changed his mindset and realized the more you turn away from God, the worse your life gets. But the more you turn to him, you feel such blessing in your life, even through suffering. So I just think that's so good. So I just want to thank you so much for being on my podcast. I love you so much.
Thanks.
Bubba.
I love you too.
All right, well, let's be real, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for listening to this podcast. It means so much to me, and I have so much fun making these. Don't forget to follow my Instagram at @TaylorNJones_, and subscribe to this podcast, Let's Be Real with Taylor Jones, so you can keep up with new and upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening.